Okay, welcome back. We are going to go through a real world example actually. I'm going to have a separate video on this one because it's pretty apparent that this is a bad fit for me. Um, so we're going to actually go through here, and it's with SiteView. It's actually this job right here. Like I said, there's a whole other video on this, but it's, we talk about, I go through it pretty quick, but it's basically just um, an ortho pavement, ortho for this property in Delta, Colorado. So I'm in Colorado Springs, but this actually has me living in Denver because I didn't want to use real world information on here for you guys. No offense, but just protecting myself. So they want 70 bucks to do that job. I'm going to paste the location in here. You see it pop up. Let's go ahead and put a date in here so you can see that. We'll do this on the 15th, and it's going to be a long drive, so we'll do 2 o'clock. Estimated time on site, I would give it an hour. I think that's a 30-minute flight, so I don't necessarily think that's going to take that long. But as you can already see, things start happening as you're doing this. Already down here, you got this stuff is already populating. As soon as you put the date in here, these two automatically start working. They populate as you're continuing, and so it's already determined what the route is. It's already telling you what that is, and whenever you put a date in here, it'll actually give you a forecast. And we'll click on those here in just a second. All right, out-of-pocket expenses. Since this is going to be at least what is that? 9 hours driving and an hour on site, 10 hours. I'm going to probably want, at least something to drink and, maybe a couple of, a lunch and a snack or something. Okay. So that's how you do that. Now let's look at the verdict. Typically, if I would go down here and do my research before I dive too far into this, but it's kind of nice to know if okay, boy, this one's a bad example. And I knew it was going to be this because I actually looked this up right before I hit record. Okay, so this right here is what's saying is fair based off of your dollars per hour for, oh, that's residential real estate. Let me change this because there we go. My commercial, actually, it's mapping. And I don't have anything in the mapping, so it's saying don't do that. Hold on. We're doing this real time. You're seeing me goof this up real time. Per industry rate overrides mapping. Oh, it does have this in here. So there we go. That's what I want. Okay. So as you noticed, you saw this happen in the background because I accidentally had this set to per acre. It's actually per hour. And I'm going to use suggested. There we go. Okay, done. All right, now we're back in business. Everything's okay. You can always go. You can always, whatever your industry is, see this right here just defaulted to my default because I have nothing in media / entertainment. I'll show you that. So media entertainment is nothing. Okay, now if God forbid you're like, wait a second, but I do that, and this is your rate, and as soon as I hit use suggested, look at this in the background, you can just barely see it, but watch it change. There you go. Okay, so that's how that works. Let's go back to mapping because that's literally what this job is. It's a mapping job. Okay. So let's look at this in detail. This right here just gives you a Cliff Notes version of this right here. It's just basically saying, hey, it's 188.79 below this minimum. Okay, and we're going to talk about that here in a second because that's the thing that you can adjust in settings. So we'll talk about what drives that and that. But essentially, it's saying this right here is your fair rate, and this right here is your break even, your minimum, and you should just go ahead and walk away. It's all red. It's, I tried to do color coded so that way, it makes sense. It kind of validates the information that's being presented to you if you don't want to really just look at, the numbers, and you just want a very simple, is it worth it or not? And it tells you, nope, it's not worth it. So walk away. Okay, now let's break this down. First up, let's look at each block. So this top block right here just basically gives you the fair rate and your break even. This next one gives you a suggestion of walking away, and it tells you why, or it tells you you're going to lose money. And then there's this range. Okay, this is the offer. Minimum is this line right here. Your ideal is this line right here that's bolded. And this little red dot, and the color of the dot corresponds to whatever you're supposed to do. So if it was yellow, this dot would be yellow, and it would also be inside of this this range. And if it was green, a green dot means you're above your ideal and you should take it. Okay. All right, profit and effective dollars per hour. We'll get to that in just a second. That's kind of your bottom line up in the middle, not up front, but in the middle. Okay, so let's look at our labor. On-site labor, we're going to do an hour flight. Again, that's the time we put here. And we're going to charge $110 an hour to do mapping. And so that's 1 hour. Drive labor, this is the big chunk of this. It's saying 8.84 hours round trip at $45 an hour because that's what we charge. This is your drive labor, not gas, just labor. And so you add those up, that's what you get here. Now, ZiteView is offering $70. There's the Stripe fee because they're going to get theirs. And then this right here is what's going to actually hit the bank. But, oops, you paid for fuel. You paid for about 25 gallons of fuel at the current rate, and your vehicle's miles per gallon is going to be about that much in gas. Your out-of-pocket expenses, remember we spent $50 here. Again, this is what you're paying the day of you do the mission. So you're out of money, you're out of pocket already. So your profit is in the hole. You're even though they're going to pay you $70, it's going to cost you $81.12 to go do that mission. All right, and if you really want to know what that looks like, I'm laughing because you're basically paying $8.24 an hour from the moment you leave your house until you get back to do that mission. Okay. That's at the end of the day what that is. So if ZiteView sends you this and you live in Colorado Springs, just be wary that this does not, or this is doing it from Denver. So if you're coming from Denver, you're going to lose a lot of money. All right, so let's go down here to our research and context, so that way we can see what it looks like. Here's the map. That's a long drive. Jesus, that's a long drive. But if you want to see what that area looks like, and really that's this right here is an invaluable tool for doing your research up front, is clicking on Street View. Street View is probably the most underrated thing you could possibly imagine when it comes to research for your missions, because you can literally look at what it is that you're going to be flying into or flying. There's poles. It's a big parking lot, but I don't see a lot of issue. I don't see big towers or anything, or guy wires or power lines or anything like that. So this should be a very easy. I think they said 80 feet AGL to do this one. I don't see anything that's going to be a problem. But it's nice to know that before you show up, and you're not walking into something that you're like, oh crap, this is going to take me forever to get around. So you could do that. What's the airspace look like? Well, it tells you that right here. It says you're up to 400 feet, no Lance authorization required. And if you want to double check that, you can go through all these things here, check your TFRs and all those things that you're supposed to do before you show up. But if you just want a quick visual, you can hit copy chords, go down here, paste them in, hit search. If you want this on a bigger, you want the full screen of this, you can click on the button here. That's the UAS facility map. But yeah, Tractor Supply is right there, and see where the Delta is pretty far away from. It looks like there's something down here. So is this? So there's an airport down here, but you're far away from it. You don't have to worry about that. So, and if you need to submit a Lance, you can go here and click on one of your Lance providers and actually submit it there. Weather gives you a nice little weather forecast, and this is your window that you're going to fly. Looks like everything should be green and fairly good. And if you need more granular, I would go to UAV forecast and put all this in there, and that will help you out. That's an amazing area or program to use. Okay, so let's look and see what mapping looks like for Delta, Colorado, and it'll probably pull from the local, somewhere that's a little bit more populated than Delta. I don't think it's going to actually have information for Delta, Colorado, but let's see what it comes up with for mapping. So we're going to look that up, and this is what it looks like. It looks like, all right, had to do some searches, and it probably pulled really far and wide. Low is 750, average is 1500, and high is 3000. So most likely it's pulling this from Grand Junction or maybe even back to Denver, because that's kind of a Denver-ish number. Their offer of $70 is actually minus 95.3% of this. Okay, so if you need to see whatever resources it pulled from, it looks like Indeed is one of the big ones, but that's where it pulls that data from. So you can actually look and kind of weigh, the credibility of all this information. Okay. So I'm going to go off on a little tangent here while we're doing this, and I'm going to say SiteView typically is in this area right here. Don't be surprised if it ever gets to this number, not this number in particular, but whatever would be in this section. SiteView is notorious for being down here. Okay. And if you want to hedge your bets, decline the mission and wait and see if they resubmit it, because whenever they do, it's usually up by 10 or 15 bucks. And you just keep doing that enough until it's in your window, if it ever gets there, because somebody else probably will take it. Fly Guys and Rad are probably usually between, they're somewhere down in here, occasionally up here, but typically your flying is going to be down in this area for these networks, okay? Because what they're doing is they're taking your data that you're collecting, and they're doing the post-processing, and so they're charging, these rates up here. And this is what you could be charging if you had your own clients, okay? And you do your own post-processing. So that's where the real money is. If all you're doing is data collection for these networks, you're just going to be you're going to be stuck in this area down here. So don't be surprised if you see a lot of red on your verdicts here. Okay, that's just the nature of the beast. That's what the market looks like right now. So if you're going into this, sorry to splash the cold water on you, but if you're going into this thinking that you're going to fly for SiteView and make $100,000 a year, chances are pretty slim of that actually happening. Okay, as a side hustle, it's kind of fun, but if you're going to make a go at this full time, then just be wary of that. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. AI bid recommendation. This is your third party second opinion. So let's go ahead and see what they say. And they're going to come up with, yep, they're recommending 850. This is the range they say is correct, they being AI. Your offer of $70 is way under, and it'll actually give you the fair rate audit of your rate, your fair bid. So that's what came up whenever you're running your numbers versus this. So again, not what they're offering. They're offering you $70, but your fair bid. So this is evaluating your pricing against what it's saying is recommended. So again, this is all information that's really good for you to go back to this and say, yeah, I'm going to walk away from that. Okay, so I think that is really probably one of the best examples I could probably show you. Now, if they came back and say, let's run this, so that way you can see, they came back and said, hey, we'll pay you $500. Well, now you're inside that range. You noticed your dot turned yellow, this turned yellow. Okay, you're getting paid for your time, but what this range is basically this right here, your drive time. It's eating into that. Okay, because it calculates 100% of what your out-of-pocket expenses is and 100% of your flying rate, but it's eating into your drive rate. Okay, so but we'll go over that here in the next video. So stick around, and yeah, so I'll just keep this up. We'll use this as the example. So stick around for the next video.